Am I the asshole for cutting off my friend's speech at my best friend's wedding because of a secret she didn't know I knew? I, 28M, was the best man for my best friend, Chris, last weekend. Chris is the kind of guy who hates drama. He's sensitive, works a high-stress job, and really needed his wedding day to be perfect. Enter Sarah. Sarah has been part of our friend group since college. She's funny and charismatic, but she has a habit of roasting people a little too hard. For Chris's wedding, Sarah wasn't in the bridal party, but she begged Chris to let her give a short speech during the rehearsal dinner. Chris, being a pushover, said yes. A few days before the wedding, Sarah sent me a draft of her speech to proofread. Most of it was fine, but there was one specific joke at the end. She planned to tell a story about a trip we took to Vegas 3 years ago, where Chris supposedly cried in a fountain because he missed his ex-girlfriend. Here's the problem. Chris didn't cry in a fountain because of his ex. He actually had a massive panic attack that night because he had just found out his father was being investigated for some very serious financial crimes, which eventually led to a messy legal battle. Chris never told anyone in the group the real reason except for me. Sarah just saw him crying and assumed it was over the girl he'd just broken up with. I knew that if Sarah told that funny story, it would trigger Chris's memories of one of the worst years of his life, right in front of his new wife and his parents, who are still dealing with the fallout. I called Sarah and told her she had to cut the story. She asked why, saying it was comedy gold. I couldn't tell her the truth about Chris's dad because it wasn't my secret to tell. I just said, "Trust me, it's a sensitive topic for him, and it's not as funny as you think." She flat out refused to change it, telling me I was being too protective and that it was her moment to tell a great story. I realized she wasn't going to listen, so I took matters into my own hands. Before the dinner started, I found the sound technician, slipped him a $50 tip, and told him that if I gave him a thumbs down signal, he needed to cut the volume on the mic immediately. At the rehearsal dinner, Sarah got up to speak. She was doing well, but then I saw her flip to the last page of her notes, just as she leaned into the mic and said, "And who could forget that night in Vegas?" I gave the signal. The mic went completely dead. Sarah looked confused and started tapping the microphone, but before she could try to speak up or fix it, I immediately jumped to my feet. I started applauding as loudly as I could, which prompted the rest of the room to start clapping too. Over the noise, I shouted, "What a perfect place to leave it!" "Thanks, Sarah. I think that's our cue that it's time for dinner. Let's eat, everyone." The servers started bringing out the food, and Sarah was forced to sit down, looking absolutely humiliated and fuming. Later that night, she figured out what happened and has been blowing up my phone, calling me a snake, and saying I ruined her moment. She told the rest of our friends that I sabotaged her because of an ego trip. Now half the group thinks I'm an asshole for publicly embarrassing her over what they think was just a harmless joke. Chris is happy because he had a great night and has no idea any of this happened. If I tell the group why I did it, I betray Chris's privacy and bring up a painful family secret. If I don't, I look like a jerk who bullied a friend for no reason. So, am I the asshole?